peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us at the 23rd of August 2020. The show is Africa Showdown, where we get to look at the main events that have been happening in Africa over the week, and especially in the political arena. And we have a lot to talk about. But before we get to the African, topic, which is how much is AU doing to help democracies here in Africa, we will start first with Kenya, where we shall be looking at the pull, push, and defiance that has, formed a part of the Kenya political dynamics in this country. And of course, that will be a very interesting conversation to you, that we'll be bringing to you. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mira Mugutu from the Punchline Africa Television headquarters, but I'm joined by Dr. David Matanga. I don't know if today he is at the Political Command Center. Doctor, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Yes, I am miles and miles away from you. Good afternoon, Miriam in Nairobi. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for all our viewers, wherever you are in the world, watching Punchline Africa Television. This is the only television in Africa that talks about Africa, that discusses Africa, finds out what ails Africa, what kills Africa, why is democracy so little, but too far, and very little done. We have been struggling for the last 66 years to get independence. We got independence 66 years ago. But are we democratic? That is the main topic that will come later on. But right now in Kenya, back in Nairobi, too many people pull, push, and defiance. People seem not to be agreeing. People not to be talking on the same wavelength. We are 2 years away from elections. This is exactly the time when people should be building bridges, when people should be bridging all the gaps to make sure that nothing happens to Kenya again. I have been there for Kenya. I stand for Kenya. I'll be there for Kenya. But my dear brothers and sisters, back in Nairobi, wherever you are, in Kenya, in the Republic of Kenya, get yourself worked out. Don't be worked out with people who disobey the President of the Republic of Kenya. President Uhuru Kenyatta is the commander-in-chief of the Kenyan Defense Forces. He's our head of state. He's the head of state of the Republic of Kenya. Whatever side shows we are seeing here, these are side shows. These are power-hungry maniacs who have just come in to manipulate a situation when his term is not ended. So therefore, there you are. I just want to tell you frankly that the situation of pull, push, and defiance came to a head-on. The newspapers today, Miriam, since I don't have copies of the Kenyan newspapers with me, I believe you have the copies. You'll tell me the headline, what it is. But I'm very far away, and I wish the people of Kenya, the solidarity, the liking, the stand, I will join you when time comes. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much there. And then also we are joined by Professor Jared. Professor, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Miriam. Dr. Masanga, and Daniel Wesonga.
All right, thank
and
you.
The rest of our viewers from all over the world.
Very well, Daniel Wesonga, very good afternoon to you. He is our correspondent here from Nairobi's CBD. Daniel, good afternoon to you.
Very good afternoon, Miriam Ogutu, Dr. David Matsanga, Professor Jared Onyari, our viewers here in Kenya, Africa, and the globe at large. Very good afternoon.
All right, and before we get right into the topic, first let us just look at the figures in Kenya and then perhaps in Africa in total, and where we stand this afternoon in regards to COVID-19. Kenya has recorded a total of 32,118 COVID-19 cases. 542 of those have died, and recovery rate now stands at 18,453. Uganda, 2,166 cases. 20 people have died. 1,179 have recovered. And in South Africa, the leading country still here in the continent at 607,045 cases. And the death toll there is 12,987. And recovery rate now stands at 504,127. And Africa as a total, we have confirmed cases at 1,157,955. And the death toll in the continent right now has topped 28,400 cases. And recovery rate now is at 881,590. So in a nutshell, the cases there continue to increase in Africa. Of course, not as per that what was expected there. I think this has even puzzled scientists. They don't understand how we keep recording low cases compared to other parts of the world. But hey, that is it. But still, the cases there have continued to go up, but not as you would compare with Latin America, the US itself, or Europe. But so far, I think we're doing well, and we're trying to keep COVID-19 under control. So continue wearing your masks, wash your hands, sanitize wherever you're in a public place. Make sure you're safe, you protect yourself, and you protect the people around you. So thank you so much, Doctor. Let's just get into it. The topic of the day, the Kenyan topic, the poll push, the Defiance politics that has been synonymous with the recent political scenarios here in the country. Are we likely to see any of this go down, or are we likely to see just a lot of this being magnified?
Miriam, thank you very much. Viewers, thank you very much. Professor, thank you very much. Sean Wesonga, this time I have understood how to pronounce your name. I want to say thank you very much for teaching me that English word, because I am used to the films of Connolly, seeing Connolly. So, but if they have never said Sean Connolly. But it's okay, thank you very much. First of all, let's go back. Miriam, as I told you, I don't have the headlines. What do the headlines in Kenya, what are they saying?
All right, so this Sunday Nation there, the main headline is How I Saved Raila's Life. Now with the Moi security forces on his trail, Raila Odinga's dressed as a Legio Maria adherent and hitched a nighttime ride on a leaky boat to Uganda and onwards to Norway in 1991. This is the story of a teenage boy who saved the life of the man who would become an African statesman. But on the other sidelines, I think captures, perhaps what we shall be looking at today in the politics. The party is over at Jubilee House. Uhuru has finally arrested the Jubilee Party from Ruto. Will the DP build another vehicle for his 2022 bid? So that is there in the political section.
Thank you very much, Miriam. This is the second time that the Right Honorable Prime Minister escaped to get out of the country. This is under Museveni in 1991. Ours was 1982, which I cannot disclose, I cannot discuss beyond any, because my commander will not be very happy. My commander is still a living commander on planet Earth. Therefore, I will not discuss the first time in 1982. In 1982, when His Excellency, the Right Honorable Minister, the late father asked President Dr. Milton Obote to give him exit, to get him out of Kenya because Moi wanted to cut him to pieces. So I want to discuss that because my commander has not given me instructions to do so. He's still living commander. He was the commander of the Uganda National Liberation Army. We worked together in the offices, so I will not give any details of 1982 escape and eventually to rescue the situation in Kenya, which made Moi to hate us and put us on a plane, a cargo plane, when we were overthrown in 1985. Moi had not forgiven us for having made the Honorable Prime Minister, who was supposed to be killed according to the operations of that day, because Ochuka and others had fled to Tanzania, and the old forces, Mugabe could not take in, Nyerere could not take in. Dr. Milton Obote, may your soul rest in peace. You instructed us, we did our job, and that is what I can say. That is 1982. The 1991 is Museveni era. This is when the Honorable Prime Minister found us in exile. I was now this time in exile in London, and we continued the meeting on several occasions. And we, as rebels who were fighting for the restoration of democracy in Africa, the removal of a one-party state of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, we used to meet. And again, I cannot disclose much of the things that took place during the days of my Kenya and other activities. Thank you very much. God bless you.
All right, very well. So that story is on page 18 of the Daily Nation there at the Sunday Nation. And it says, President completes takeover of Jubilee from Ruto's men. And after months of persistent onslaught on the deputy president, which saw his allies kicked out of key parliamentary positions, the president embarked on a cleanup and the party's headquarters, forcing Dr. Ruto's Tangatanga camp to seek refuge at Jubilee Assembly Center. And Prof, we know that President Uhuru Kenyatta has been very clear about the legacy that he intends to leave once his time is up as Kenya's president. And of course, we know DP's side has been seen to be engaging so much in politics that really has threatened to derail President Uhuru Kenyatta's realization on his Big Four agenda. So with this takeover, as Sunday Nation puts it, does it now leave room for President Uhuru Kenyatta to finally realize, his Big Four agendas and other legacy and his legacy that he's been intending to leave once his term expires?
Miriam, this is one of the best strategies. We have said it the whole week. We were telling you, let this guy get out. He has nothing he's offering. The push against the president doesn't pay. It's not paying. He's pushing the president. He is actually undermining the authority of His Excellency, the president. Therefore, there is no way that people can sit, watch a man dismember the legacy of the president, destroy the legacy of His Excellency, the President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. It is a tragedy. It's a tragedy that some of these things are happening when people cannot say their minds. At least for me, I say my mind. I've said, if you cannot work on the principles of the party, why can't you park on the ship and go somewhere else and form your party? If you have the capability to undermine your boss, why do you remain with him in the same house? If a woman is quarreling with the husband on a daytime, nighttime, morning, lunch, they are fighting. What's the use of staying in the same house? I think time has come for people to make it very clear, and I want to thank President Uhuru Kenyatta for taking over the party and for making the party strong and for giving the people hope that he can now use it to make it effective for the last 2 years. Because there is no unity. Remember, Miriam, unity is not there. And that unity is not going to come. You can go to the moon and come back. That unity will not come in the party. There's no Jubilee Party unity because one element is talking about win-win situation and the other element is forgetting that Nairobi has got poor people who need that money. Yes, Nairobi people are poor, just as there are people who are poor in Isolo. So you can't take money from Nairobi and go and give few people in Isiolo and they leave almost 1 million people poor under the poverty. It's impossible. So this populist politics must end, it must go, it must be stopped.
All right, very well, Professor, as we've seen there, according to, the Sunday newspaper here, the Sunday Nation, it says now that President Uhuru Kenyatta has made some cleanup in the Jubilee Party. Now, he has perhaps, do you think he has a good chance of finally realizing his legacy? Because we know he has been very clear, and several times, especially in the recent times, he said whatever may, he is committed towards delivering on the promises that he has made to Kenyans and leaving a lasting legacy. Finally, will he be able to do that?
Miriam, that is a very good question. But I want to state very clear that when was the president not in charge of the party? He has been in charge of the party. What he has already done, Miriam, he has already used the constitution of the party to bring discipline to the party. So if discipline is tantamount to taking the party, then I don't see from that perspective. Because as Dr. Masanga said that Jubilee Party has got a constitution, and if you don't toe the constitution, you are disciplined. And remember, of what interest has the president has to take Jubilee Party when he has got 22 years to finish his term and go home? What is he so much interested in is to ensure that he has achieved his legacy, he has achieved his four agenda. And if you find someone is not supporting you to realize your legacy, Miriam, you part. And that's why I say the principal assistant to the president, who is the deputy president, he should be bold enough and be like the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. When he found himself that he cannot work with Jomo Kenyatta, he said, no, there's no point sitting in the office earning Kenyans' money, the taxpayers' money. Should the future generation come to accuse me that I used to earn money which I did not work for? So the deputy president has lost morality because he is no longer supporting the president. He's never supportive of the president's agenda. So whoever has been disciplined in Jubilee, it is according to the constitution of Jubilee, and I hope if the president has installed discipline in the party, I'm seeing him much likely to achieve his legacy. But how I pray that if you don't agree with someone, there's no point to quarrel. The president cannot quit because his time is numbered. He knows that he has got more than 2 years to complete his term and go home. So whoever pretends and masquerades to become a president of this country, the best you can do, get out of that Jubilee government and be outside and start preparing to make your own government. That's what I have to say, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. Daniel, I think you remember that the tweet by Deputy President William Ruto last week in regards to the corruption, I think, that is going on and the investigations that are going there in KEMSA right now, and the tweet which he said he seemed to be very happy that he's not, for once, he's not being attached to that mega corruption there, also indicating a lot of people thought, okay, fine, so we've been seeing the marriage of the Jubilee Party was dead, but this has clearly confirmed because he spoke as an outsider. He really didn't speak as if he's part of the government that might seek to be finding the solution and might be seek to be finding through investigations that are continuing right now, he spoke like an ordinary Kenyan or an opposition person or just somebody who's not part of that government. And people said, all right, so now you have confirmed the marriage in Jubilee Party is dead owing to that and, the changes that have been made in the Jubilee Party there. And President Uhuru Kenyatta has really a commitment in delivering his legacy. I don't know. What do you make of all this?
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And Dr. Matsanga, Professor Jared Onyari have already put a silver lining on this discussion. And let me ask the Deputy President, if he says that he cannot be associated with whatever is happening in the government, then the quintessential question is, which government is he working for? And if he feels that he's not working for the Jubilee administration, the government, why is he illegitimately receiving remuneration and allowances for a work not done? He should resign and allow the president to appoint someone who is more much aligned to the government, someone who is more committed in implementing government's agenda and really supporting it to take over, other than eating taxpayers' money and not doing something about it. And also, one quintessential thing that we have to get clear as Kenyans, and I think I hope the Deputy President notes it down, is that we can only have one president at a time. We can only have one head of state at a time. We can only have one party leader at a time. And in the 48 laws of power, one of the cardinal laws and the law number 1 is that never outshine your master. And that has been there since time immemorial. You remember during the times of Napoleon, the time of Adolf Hitler, there was a rule in the books of war, even in the military, that if you wanted to go on a war, you could fight any other particular country, but you never march on Moscow. Why Moscow? Because at that time, Moscow had established itself as the leader in military combat, and no any particular state or democracy would ever march onto Moscow. And that was captured in the page number 1, rule number 1 of the military war. And that is the same thing with the presidency. You can never take a battle to the head of state's doorstep and be able to win it. So that is the greatest blunder that William Ruto did, and it is going to haunt his presidential ambition to the very end. He might never even become a president of this republic, because for you to be a leader, first of all, you have to know how to obey. For you to be a commander, you must know how to obey also. So that is one great mistake and blunder that he did. And I think his time at the helm of Jubilee Party leadership, and also the office of the presidency rather, it's so long up, and he should resign. Give the president an ample time to appoint someone or get someone who will be able to assist him in accomplishing his legacy, which is due in less than 2 years. And so, having said that, Miriam, I totally agree with Dr. David Matsanga, Professor Jared Onyari, that if the DP feels aggrieved, if he feels that he is incapacitated by the same government that he serves in, if he feels that he's not being appreciated as a deputy president, the only noble thing that he can do, that the one that will prove that he's truly a leader, is to tender his resignation as early as tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Miriam, before you go to another topic, let me just say this one on Wesonga's question.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Miriam, you become happy that the money for the people of Kenya has been stolen. Tell me if you are not wicked to say that you at least me, I am not there. You are happy instead of condemning that the money for the people of Kenya going to fight COVID has been stolen. Miriam, if a pig which is in muddy sees you clean, do you know what it will do? It will become angry with you because you are clean. But if you become like the pig, then you become happy. I hope you understand what I'm saying. If you fight with a pig and you become dirty, the pig will be very, very, very happy with you. So very unfortunate statement to have come from the principal assistant of the president that you are happy that the money for the people of Kenya have been stolen. You would only say that I'm happy you have become dirty like me.
Oh, okay.
Are you here?
Right, very well. So, Doctor, we've seen that.
Are you here?
Yes. So
you come to room 20.
All right, Doctor, we can hear. Doctor.
Yes.
We can hear that conversation. So. All right. So the next question, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy might not be the only place where we see the pull and push and defiance when it comes to the Kenyan politics there. So the acrimonious fallout between former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka and his longtime political confidant took a definitive turn on Friday after the Wiper Party leader publicly castigated former Machakos Senator Johnson Muthama's push for a joint 2022 ticket with the Deputy President William Ruto. Now, Mr. Muthama, who is Machakos County's former senator, said those threatening politicians supporting DP Ruto will be chased away from Ukambani and forced to accept democracy as their votes are not enough to make someone president. And we know Mr. Johnson Muthama was really a very close political ally of former Vice President Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. But as it has been in the nature of Kenyan politics, you really can never... there's no permanent friendships. That is what we learn from Kenyan politics every single day. And here he seems to be supporting Deputy William Ruto. What is the likely future for former Vice President Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka? Is he likely to join the DP as Muthama wants him to, or what is likely to happen to him, judging from his past political history? Doctor? All right, Professor.
Well, Miriam.
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. Where we are, the network is not very good, but I think you are hearing me.
Okay, go ahead.
For me, Kalonzo's statement is very good statement. And that statement opens quite a lot of Pandora boxes. He has been very firm. He has said he cannot join somebody whom he has accused of being corrupt. And let's take him for face value. Because after all, this is the politics of pull, push, and defiance. He wanted to put Muthama to his position. The time he thinks that he is the mastermind of Ukambani politics. Therefore, Kalonzo has done a very good thing to clarify. The next question that you asked, whether he will be able to remain where he is, remains to be seen. Because politics has no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. But me, David, I have permanents. Certain people, because I know the journey will be very short-lived. And you and I, you know. So let me just keep and preserve my comment. I'm not a Kenyan. I am just a friend of Jubilee Party. I'm a defender of President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. If you touch him, you touch me. You touch the legacy, you touch me. I'm very happy to do that job. Our term of office will come, and we come. As Shakespeare said, the world is a stage where you come and play and go. Once you have finished your play, we don't stay. But immediately, coming back to what it is today, this is me of one Martin Luther, the Protestant cleric, theologian, who distanced himself from acts of what was happening in the church at that time. There's one thing that he said, and you can read his book. All his books are very interesting. This morning, I took almost 4 hours reading Wesonga must have not said that old man does not sleep.
Sure.
But I took 4 hours reading. There is one quote that I found from Martin Luther, that those who drink alcohol sleep fast quickly. Then they wake very fast, but they don't backbite, and they are the first ones to arrive at the kingdom of God. He went, they did the book, Martin Luther. Your life, pick a pen and a paper and write. You don't fight a war by just posturing and giving money.
All right, Doctor, can you hear us?
For you, sitting your
we had lost you there.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we had lost you there for a moment, but I think now you're back. We can hear you.
Instead of medium of people doing things for you, you better have things being done in the sense that they are done in a proper way. So pick up a pen and write and defend the position. Never change, never waffle. That's what I've done for the legacy. For this question of William Ruto or Kalonzo or whoever it is, President Uhuru Kenyatta will finish his term. Kenya is a democratic space. It's a country of democracy. We don't expect any other uncoordinated miracles. Although people like Ruto would like to have uncoordinated miracles, I don't think these miracles will come in this country, Kenya. Thank you very much, Miriam.
All right, very well, Prof. I was judging from former Deputy President Kalonzo Musyoka there. He's been known or sort of being accused of not being very definitive when it comes to certain things. You remember that very famous tag, a watermelon or kupita katikati or things like that, that he has been called before. So in response, to the criticism, Mr. Musyoka, who has also been criticized of not taking a very firm stand on political matters, said he now has his own mind. Now, he's saying he has his own mind as a senior counsel and that he drew lessons from his 2007 attempt at the presidency that saw him after the fallout and during, of course, the post-election violence. He quickly joined former President Mwai Kibaki there. Or this is yet to be seen, but judging from Kalonzo's, just recent, political dynamics there, has he become wiser when it comes to, the political decisions he's making now? As he says here, he has his own mind. Professor.
Well, Miriam, thank you for that question. And I have to say that the former Vice President, Stephen Kalonzo, is becoming more wiser than yesterday or the other day. Sometimes, Miriam, you pray, oh God, protect me from my enemies and I will take care of my enemies. If Johnston Mutama was Kalonzo's friend and advisor, God forbid, because he has been misleading the former vice president and he has come to his realization. And in fact, Stephen has charted his own destiny. Like now, without or with Mudama, is respected Miriam. Is a special envoy to Southern Sudan and bring peace in the region. Is becoming a statesman. In fact, Miriam, what again do you expect a man of principle who has accused someone to be a thief and say that I said yesterday this man is a thief, I cannot come back to him? Miriam, what I see is a serious principle of the man of Kalonzo Musyoka and his majoring. And I have no doubt, Miriam, The Kenya we are heading, Kalonzo is having a bright future. Because in the Kenyan which is being crafted, and I have no doubt Kenya is being crafted in terms of leadership. Musyoka has got a position. Miriam, a Mangi may come and snatch your briefcase and goes to the tree with the briefcase with thousands and millions of money. But it does not know that it is rich. So the likes of Mutama, with all their money, let them not think that they have got something to advise. There is nothing they can be able to advise one. Kalonzo coming out and saying now he cannot allow himself to be cheated the third time. Miriam, this is great for Musyoka. And I can see his future is very bright now. He can think on his own. Because if the likes of Mudama are the ones you have to go to war, then you are finished. Miriam, hear this. Before we went to 2013 general election, the president and the deputy president had a case in air. Do you know what this fool goes to Machakos and says? He tells these people and the things that the Kikambas in Ngara, that nobody understands. He says, so you see these friends are going to go to Hague and they will be chaired and our son will become a president. Imagine. This is a man who becomes your advisor and spoils everything for Kalonzo Musyoka. So the sooner, and you had him yesterday, Musyoka coming out, you have cheated me twice. I can't allow you to cheat me the third time. So on that, Kalonzo, go on and you are becoming a statesman. You are a diplomatic person. You embrace peace. You are an ambassador for peace. And if you are an ambassador of peace, the Bible says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they can be called sons of God. So Musyoka is okay, according to me.
All right. Okay, Professor Daniel, we know Johnston Muthama was not just a close ally to former President Kalonzo Musyoka. He was also the financier. He bankrolled the party and the former President Kalonzo's, party and politics and all that for a long time. And he has been, because of, financial might, whoever who pays the piper calls the short. So it appears now the separation that has been experienced in Wiper Party by Johnston Muthama distancing himself from that party now has given Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka a mind of his own. Would that be, what do you make of that?
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And I think Prof has talked about it. Dr. David Matsanga has also talked about it. And they say that, politics is the second oldest profession in the world. And just like the first one, they bear a very striking resemblance of course, what was the first profession in the world. So I think Muthama moving from supporting Kalonzo Musyoka and the ideals that they held in the then the NASA coalition and the perception they had about William Ruto as corrupt, as the master of impunity, as an axis of evil, then to take a U-turn and come back to see an angel in him, then it shows you that this is a politician with little regard of principle. This is a politician who does not have a moral standing. And to me, I agree with Professor Jared Onyari that Johnston Muthama should be the last person to have the courage or the stomach to tell Kalonzo Musyoka where to go. The Kalonzo Musyoka of 2020 is so much different from the Kalonzo Musyoka we had before 2013. And you remember back then he made a move of coming to join hands with President Mwai Kibaki after the DVC 2007 elections. And that really teared into his reputation. And he was branded of all derogative names like watermelon, being a turncoat and all that. And that has eaten into his reputation for quite some years. And he seems to be learning from his mistakes. And perhaps people, the brains who were behind his moves back then were the likes of Johnston Muthama, who is trying to avoid right now like a plague. And I think for a leader who has now seen the light, and it's within the public perspective that Kalonzo now is maturing, Kalonzo is becoming more principled, and that is the right path that he should follow as a leader. He should not again be coerced to drift back into the realms of the oblivion and irrelevancy that the likes of Johnson Palmer had pulled him into. So I think for Kalonzo, let him stand his ground. He's on the right path. He's aligning with the right-minded people. And in politics, there's what we call the spirit of the times. The spirit of the times right now, Miriam, is building the bridges, supporting the president, working on the legacy, and uniting Kenyans. So if you really want things to go really deep south for you as a politician, then go on the opposite side. And it's just like the same thing that happened during 2002 elections. Bringing on board new leadership from what Kanu had provided was the spirit of that time. And any leader who stood against the path of that spirit, as the former Premier Raila Odinga said, it was like a tsunami, and a tsunami could sweep you through to the ocean. So Kalonzo is on the right path. Let him ignore Mudhami. It doesn't matter if Mudhama has been a financier to the Wiper coalition. At his current age, Kalonzo Musyoka is coming almost to retirement in politics, and what matters to him most right now is his legacy. He needs to leave a legacy, not of being fickle, but being of a strong mind, of a strong decision, and someone who is more principled and very progress-oriented. So I think, to me, it doesn't matter if he's gonna stop financing him, but convening Kalonzo Musyoka to join hands with the deputy president, I think it takes him some steps back from the progress that he has been able to achieve since 2013.
All right, very well. And before we jump into the other topic of how much has AU done to help democracies in Africa, it's very interesting headline here on the Sunday Standard, which I think we should look at. Plot to give Uhuru MPs 1 more year. Politicians from across the political divide are exploring ways of introducing a transitional clause in the BBI report to provide for an extension of the presidential term to incubate new reforms. Under the Constitution, Parliament's term can only be extended during exceptional circumstances as war, the president's tenure, through a referendum. And the story is on page 4 here of this Sunday Standard. And it says MPs plot to extend their term in office to recover a lost year, and MPs are considering extending their term for 1 year in the guise of seeking more time to push through constitutional reforms. Already talks are ongoing to introduce a transitional clause, as I have said earlier there. And according to the highly placed sources, the clause shall be introduced to ensure smooth transitional after Uhuru's exit. Supporters of the extension argue that Uhuru needs more time to midway the referendum process and its implementation. Leading BBI proponents such as Court Secretary General Francis Atwoli have publicly said Uhuru is too young to retire. I don't know if I even saw this coming, but Doctor, if you can hear me, what do you make of this?
William.
Yes.
This is a very interesting story. And I think it is, you see, independently speaking from where I am, wherever I am now, I can now seriously tell you there is nothing difficult in political science that can stop a man to have an ambition. 35 years ago, President Museveni told us that he's only going for us. Miriam today is going for 42 years. If you add the 10 that he wants, so he will make a very good record of 45 good years, starting from next year. So I don't think President Uhuru Kenyatta is to go and kill the type of democracy that Kenya has. But if the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya changes and it talks about a Constitution is not static. The Constitution is dynamic. A dynamic Constitution will deliver the truth of the matter. The dynamic Constitution can change. If Kenyans tomorrow in a referendum say, we want a parliamentary system, and we want to vote now. The status quo in front there changes. Therefore, there will be a new dispensation of the Constitution. But I don't think President Uhuru Kenyatta wants another term exceeding his term. What President Uhuru Kenyatta wants at the moment is keep off his legacy. Wewe toka, wacha legacy yake. Let him build his legacy. Fulfill the dream that he had. That a united Kenya, once united, Kenya can always stand against any form of aggression, whether internal, external, or from any party. No quarrels, all tribes will be united to stand in the national anthem of Kenya. That's what President Uhuru Kenyatta wants. I don't think he's interested in extending, prolonging, elongating his term to reach any other. But if the Constitution comes, if you hear of the referendum, then one of the bills of the referendum that the parliament could coin could be that one. So, and then when you look at COVID-19, it has been a very bad disaster for the whole Africa and the world. People have not achieved what they were supposed to do. People have lost what they are supposed to do. So many people have lost in terms of commerce, commercial, economy, social life. Things have changed. Who tells this might not change? It could change. Therefore, for me, a balance. If the Constitution of Republic of Kenya changes, there's nothing that means the Constitution comes afresh. If President Uhuru Kenyatta wants to play a part in the new government or any system, remember he's a leader of the Jubilee Party. And whichever party wins the majority votes is the party that will make a government if they change to parliamentary system. So I leave it to that. I don't know whether my fellow panelists will also agree with me that there is nothing in politics that stops a human being to drink water when it has been taken to the well.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Otiende Amolo, the Vice Chairman of the Parliamentary Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, described the proposal as uncalled for, warning that it will spark a constitutional crisis. Kenyans, especially MPs, should not harbor such intention. Kenya is a constitutional democracy, which, with elections date clearly specified in the law. And our members of parliament, not all, but this particular person who has been quoted here, terming this year as a lost year. But they have been holding, the parliamentary sessions, maybe not as they would have in the normal, times, but it has been happening there. Has this been a lost year, Professor, for our members of parliament?
Miriam, I'm a peace person, and I'm of the same thinking like the members of parliament. 1 year to unite this country is more important than having that 1 year and you lose a country. Miriam, the Prime Minister and the President are committed towards having a united country, a peaceful Kenya. They have identified that one through PPI, 9-point agenda that they want to be achieved. We have corrected views. And the COVID-19 has come. It has literally disrupted what we want to do. We don't know when the BBI will be tabled before Parliament, when we will go for the referendum. Any sensible person who thinks about Kenya going forward should be thinking the way these members of Parliament are trying to do. But those who are parochial and short-minded and who want to rush things, then we can just rush to 2022, we can have election, and we cannot have a country. Jesus had this to say, man was not meant for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was meant with man. So this constitution you are talking about was meant to take Kenya forward. If we find that it is not taking us forward, then we can think otherwise. So Miriam, surely the president has not served for this year. We are on a pandemic, and we have not put frameworks to ensure that we protect Kenya from what may befall us in the future. So if we can, I always say, Miriam, if people become sober and engage and have a conversation and have a debate and have a discussion, what do we want to do with Kenya? And I hope, Miriam, for those who believe in BBI like me, if we address those 9-point agenda and give the president and the prime minister, I think that 1 year will not be too much for us to give him. But the president is on record. He has said he will respect the constitution and will honor the constitution and go home. But if we can have a conversation, I don't find that there's anything wrong with the way Dr. Masanga is putting. It is us, the people of Kenya, to decide whether President Uhuru finishes his term and goes home. But the agendas which he has put forward for Kenya can take Kenya to another level, Miriam.
All right, so President Uhuru Kenyatta has in the past publicly said he is not interested in staying on after 2022, although the extension plan is shrouded in secrecy and majority of legislators are unwilling to be associated with it, preferring to talk about it anonymously. Interviews with some MPs, this is according to the Sunday Standard, interviews with some MPs revealed a discreet push, and those supporting it are said to be viewing a term extension as an option should plans to hold a referendum before the next election fail. And we've seen that the BBI and the referendum being used as one of the reasons, and also COVID-19 being used as one of the reasons as to why perhaps they will justify another term extension. But we know President Uhuru Kenyatta has been very clear on several occasions saying he's not interested in continuing his presidency after 2022, because according to our constitution, his second and final term lapses in August 2022. And but when you see perhaps a section of our politicians pushing for this, are they doing it because this is a lost year and they're concerned about perhaps the works that they're supposed to be doing that perhaps they did not do? Or is this just another way, Daniel, that you're seeing our politicians there are playing the politics of self-preservation? Will it be for the interest of the country?
Yes, thank you, Miriam, and thank you, Professor Jared Onyari, for bringing such an impeccable perspective, and also Dr. David Matsanga. Miriam, when you look at the political situation in the country right now, we are having a BBI. You know the kind of agenda that are envisaged in the BBI report. This is an agenda to unite the country, an agenda to bring a very, very affluent posterity for this country. And this is something that has been time-barred. You know, we are only 2 years to the general election in 2022. And an election in this country has been quite a contentious issue. It has always brought conflict and mayhem to our people since 1992, 1991, 97, 2008, 2007, when it became now the climax of it all. And these are the issues that the BBI seeks to address. And when we look at it from a very, very critical perspective, we truly have a very, very limited time to be able to implement even these electoral reforms. Remember, we cannot go to an election with the IEBC as it is constituted right now under Chikati. We have to clean our electoral system. We have to get new people on board, a very, very clean team of competent individuals to be able to oversee the 2022 election. And as Professor Jared Onyari says, if it will be a year which will be able to save this country from the perennial malady of falling into chaos after every election year, then so be it. Let us have that year to prepare this country, to put everything in order, so that in the coming days in the future, we will have a very progressive, united country, which is not threatened by by periodic violence during election time. And just to give you an example, Miriam, when Lee took over the Prime Minister of Singapore in the independence in 1969, this was a country which was having its citizens from different races. It had the Chinese, it had the Indians, it had the Malays in this in the same country, and so these turned out to be a very volatile and divisive country where every race was fighting to get its space in the governance and leadership of the country. And he sat down with his government and brought out policies, long-term policies that were able were to oversee the unification of the country. And it took him quite some long time before he brought the country together. And in his autobiography, he goes ahead to say that if it wouldn't have been for such sharp racial divisions in Singapore, he wouldn't have stayed longer in power as the prime minister. But because he was more concerned about leaving a very united country, a very progressive and robust economy, in the Asian area, he had to make sure that regardless of this racial diversity, the country was united. And that is the same thing that has been happening in Tanzania. You understand that Tanzania, CCM has been in power since independence. And one thing that they have always done is that they have always set a precondition, made sure that the next leader who comes in after the current one is well vetted and is a person who is much capable of carrying forward the legacy of the party, the interests of the people. And you remember President Magufuli during the death of the late Benjamin Mkapa said that it is Mkapa who sourced him out. He brought him to the party and said that this is a man who is equal to the hour. I believe he can be able to progressively take this country forward. And that is the same thing that perhaps President Uhuru wants to do. Where once he exits office, he wants to make sure that he has someone in place who will be able to carry forward his legacy of uniting Kenyans, of bringing progressive economic forwardness in this country. And if he can take that 1 year to do that, then he has all the support that he needs to do that. And as Dr. Matsanga said, you can never stop in the political field, you can never stop an ambition that has manifested itself. So be it. If it is a good thing for Kenyans, then I fully support it, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. And also I repeat there that President Uhuru Kenyatta himself, time and time again, has come out and said he's not interested in clinging on to power after his time expires. That will be in August 2022, if God allows us even to get there. So before I just put down the newspapers and we turn to our next topic, I think there's some few things that are worth mentioning. Yes.
Miriam, before you leave.
Yes.
We want to ask President Uhuru Kenyatta, whom are you leaving us for? Mzee, whom are you leaving us with?
I think Kenyans will decide. Kenyans have the decision with the vote there.
You can't leave us in the hands of thieves.
Kenyans will decide.
Can you hand over, Miriam, can you hand over power to a thief?
No, Kenyans will decide. If Kenyans will vote...
No, let's be very honest. Kenyans can decide.
Yes.
But then, look, why can't when Jesus was about to enter Jerusalem, what did he do? He got a whip, a donkey, and went and drove out thieves. Jesus did not want the disciples to be left with thieves in the temple of Jesus Christ. Of Jerusalem. Miriam, you're a Christian, it is Sunday. And we have a chaplain in the house.
Well, Kenya is a constitutional democracy, and we have the people.
Yes, it's a constitutional democracy.
Yes,
but if the Kenyans decide to change the constitution,
yes,
you can. It's democratic.
If Kenya, that is part of democracy. If Kenyans decide they want a change in the constitution, then so be it. But the ultimate decision lies with Kenyans. Yes.
Exactly, Miriam. That's why I'm saying. The Kenyans could decide. If I've already made my analysis, and I'm now adding on one of the planks of my analysis, that they could decide and say, no, The MPs have already, Professor, look at Professor. The professor has made a suggestion today that we lost 1 year because of COVID. So if there is a time to unite this country, so be it. So be it. And then put the question to the people of Kenya. Kenyatta is not going to just decide to take power. The people will decide. Thank you.
All right, very well. Thank you there. And as I said, before we move on
and
to
Miriam,
Also,
just Daniel,
Yes.
why do we want to give the president for 1 year? There are some unfinished business that we want to accomplish. And you have had, I have liked the way Dr. Masanga and Daniel has put it. We are persuading, and it is not a question of him wanting or liking. It is a question of him accomplishing his business, and he goes home. His business, which we had said, the agenda has said to ascend, has been slowed with COVID-19. See, all the focus has been COVID, corruption, name it. So if we have that kind of conversation, you say democracy is fine. The democracy we are talking about, Miriam, is conversation and discussion and the debate among the people of Kenya. If we agree to extend 1 year, so that he can be able to accomplish 1, 2, 3, and then he goes home. I think that one is better for Kenya. And for those who want a progressive and a prosperous Kenya, should be thinking in that kind of direction, Miriam.
And the way we've been seeing President Uhuru Kenyatta work, I think, is working to beat the 2022 deadline. In regards to his legacy, he's been very serious about that. And should Kenyans decide, as we've said there, then maybe
Miriam,
after that,
remember what Craig said. You don't change IPC 2 years to election. We have one in place now.
It will be a crisis. Yeah, so we have a lot of things. We have a lot of cleaning house.
Are you getting my concern?
Yes.
So let us not do things for the sake of doing. Let us be sober. Let us be serious on what we want to do. Let me tell you, even those who may want that 2022 election, it may be a symbolic election and you may regret.
And now that you're bringing the IEBC, what I don't understand is why are our legislators not really talking about this matter right now and so that the changes that are required are...
Perhaps
or
that's
they're
one
waiting,
of the reasons why they are saying that we have slept on the job,
or maybe
but we need some time to correct this.
They're buying time so that they can use this as another reason as to why we need an extension. Why are they not talking about? Because this is very important, even as we prepare for those elections. But nobody, they never seem to...
I think this topic is very interesting. I also want to come in. There is something I had forgotten. Very interesting. Look, there's Kurigira told you, and Kurigira told Kenyans that if you ever conduct an election again, that looks like the election of 2007. The other one was just a wedding party. The one coming, if you conduct it the way it is now going, it will be worse than
the other one.
The Second World War. And therefore, going by events and looking at the way things are moving now, I want to tell you frankly, do you know what? I think whoever wrote this standard, was it standard or...
It's the Sunday Standard.
Whoever wrote that article has seen something that we are not seeing. Because there is no election, there is no independent electoral commission constituted to conduct an election in 2022.
But they did not even mention that, Doctor. They just looked at the BBI report and also the COVID. That will be the reason they're giving here. But nobody's talking about the IEBC and its constitution.
But all countries, Miriam, countries are adjusting. Why can't Kenya adjust? Even Museveni is conducting a scientific one without test tubes in the laboratory.
And without changing the election date. I mean, Daniel, go ahead.
But there are no test tubes.
They're not doing the test tubes.
If you are doing a scientific election without the test tubes, how will the results look like?
Doctor, they'll be having physical elections, actually. It's only the campaigns that are virtual, so that will work against, the opposition. Only the campaigns.
I don't know, Miriam, what do you say physical?
No, they will have
means
because I read the guidelines that were given by the Ugandan Electoral Commission. They said physical elections. People will actually queue.
Why are you listening to the Uganda Electoral Commission and not listening to the
because they're the ones who gave directives. They're the ones who gave
Yeah.
directives.
Just make
All right, Daniel, yes.
No, Miriam.
Yes.
How do you conduct a physical election when you are not touching the body of another human being?
They say the police there will ensure strict adherence to social distancing measures, and perhaps they're hoping that COVID-19 will be gone by then.
Now, is that an election? Is that in our law in Uganda? Where did he craft the law from? Have you read the Uganda Constitution properly? The Uganda Constitution said physical balloting, physical campaign. Mm-hmm. It is very clear, 1995 elections, constitution. Mm-hmm. So that man has just come from nowhere, jumped into the thing and created his thing and put his hand in chaos. He's put the country in chaos.
And NRM is very happy with that arrangement. The president there is very happy with how things are. Remember, they lauded when the Electoral Commission came out. They said,
"Why can't you not see that? Why can't you not see that the key players of the Uganda politics are not there
because they know it's bogus."
No,
they know it's bogus. Yes.
We have boycotted, and we are not going to be involved. One of the things that, don't forget, I have a vote. Don't forget, there will be a polling station at Uganda High Commission in London where you can go and vote. There is. So, as a clever person in media should not call that an election. That is just
it's a formality.
Have you gone to a physics laboratory and done chemistry, a litmus paper without sulfuric acid?
Impossible.
How can you get a litmus paper, the yellow color and the blue color? Jamin.
All right.
Yes, and Miriam, just chip in on what Dr. Matsanga has mentioned there in regards to that headline. Mm-hmm. You know, when you talk about the BBI, this is a report. It's like a wholesome remedy for the ailment that has been bedeviling Kenyans for quite some time. So when they touch on BBI, generally they have talked about the electoral reforms and all that. So it will capture everything, including the reforming the IEBC, and that is why when they talk about the BBI, perhaps also the issue of reforming the IEBC comes into play. So probably that is gonna be taken into the picture, and perhaps now that one will take us maybe another extra year to be able to see and put everything in order before we head to the elections.
Mm-hmm. Ina Hassan, you're saying we live in unusual times that needs adaptation, and you're also referring to the U.S. elections, which right now I think they're also having their own confusion there because Trump has raised questions about the postal services being able to deliver even the ballot box in time and all that. So they're also dealing with their own problems there, even as they prepare to have an election in November under COVID-19 there, knowing that the U.S. leads in terms of the number of infections and also deaths worldwide. So let's just leave that alone and get into how much is AU doing to help democracies in Africa. And perhaps we should start with Uganda. This announcement that the Electoral Commission there made are not even in line with the constitution and the democracy there in Uganda, but it will go on. The scientific election, which in part does not allow anybody to hold any kind of physical rally because of the dangers there and COVID-19. So if you want to campaign, then you have to buy some airtime on the radio or newspaper or television or all of that. And we know the media in Uganda is highly controlled by the state, so that obviously has disadvantaged the opposition, but it has continued. So why is AU not coming out and raising concern when a stage is being set for chaos in terms of what are they doing to safeguard democracies here in Africa? Or they wait when the chaos happen and the killings happen, and then that's when they come in and react, and they're not taking measures that could stop certain things from happening. Prof.
Miriam, that's a very good question on what's happening in the continent of Africa. You know, Africa Union, apart from ensuring that we have having a regular elections after a certain period, but the elections are not free and fair. And if elections seem not to be free and fair, to be impartial, then democracy is at the altar. So, as Dr. Masanga is trying to say, Miriam, if you believe in the rule of law as I do things as per the law. What President Museveni has said, and I don't know why some of these African leaders don't listen. You can't be a monopoly to ideas. Listen to the small inner voice. It is having the small inner voice turns to be a very serious voice and can take you forward. We are saying that we are finding ourselves in COVID-19. It's a pandemic. Nobody anticipated for it. It just come. We have to deal with it. What stops them from going to their respective parliaments and their respective constitutions and secure their term in office as we face the pandemic and go for election? Why don't they even agree, yes, my time is over? Why don't we have a transitional government for a year or two so that we go for free and fair election? So that's where Africa has found themselves, because Dr. Masanga he speaks and you think it's a joke. How do you go to Alabama to do practicals when you don't have a test tube? How? Mm-hmm. You are saying that, what you cannot be able to do, you cannot be able to campaign freely. What does that one mean, Miriam? If you cannot read your supporters and say you are change and support them and persuade them to vote for you, that is already a rigged elections. So that's where Africa found itself. And I always tell you that the fish starts rotting from the head. So if Africa Union is rotten, don't expect that we have democracy. Even the people who were elected into office, the current chairman Faki, he was rigged into office. So what do you expect to be a replica of other African countries, rigged elections? That's how they find themselves. But my appeal is that to African leaders, I'm looking for this day when we will sit down and do things in the right way. Even our constitutions have individual African state constitutions. As rigid as they may be, they at least give way out what to do when you find yourself in a crisis. Mm-hmm. So, President Kaguta, listen to us. Don't go that directions. In any event, you have already won. Why don't you do things correctly? Mm-hmm. I don't see a serious competitor. But why do you give your competitor an opportunity to start making noise? Why don't you silence them by doing the right things, asking your matured members in the National Assembly to amend the Constitution, involve them? I always tell Miriam that every voice matters. Don't ignore people. Don't ignore your competitors. Just invite them. Have a conversation. What we do, you will use their ideas with yours and you make your country move forward and your country becoming great, Miriam. Mm-hmm.
All right, so the Constitutive Act, together with the 2000 Lome Declaration and the 2007 African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, constitutes one of the building blocks of the AU framework for the protection and promotion of democracy. Article 3 of the Constitutive Act outlines the objectives of the African Union, specifically citing the promotion of democratic principles and institutions, popular participation and good governance. In order to fulfill this objective, the AU has developed a specific institutional setup, the Peace and Security Council, which deals with conflict prevention and constitutional changes of government in a systematic and firm manner. So we've seen AU trying to come, the other last part of that, article and constitutional changes, like they said in Mali, the president was removed in an unconstitutional way. But there's this very first part that I think is quite important that might be a very poor oversight on AU's part, and that is one of the key mandates of the Peace and Security Council should be dealing with conflict prevention. Now, as we cite Uganda at this point, as an example, even as we look at other situations across Africa, conflict prevention, immediately you want to go to do things that is outside of the constitution and outside of, the principles of democracy and what is required, especially in an electoral process there according to a constitution of a country, like it is right now. The virtual, campaigns or the scientific elections is not in line with the Ugandan constitution, and the constitution has not been amended, to accommodate that. And even, the reforms that the High Court or the Supreme Court there in Uganda, said that should be made before the elections in 2021 have not been done yet there in Uganda. So, in essence, nothing has been done to try to conflict prevent there in case anything erupts, after the elections that are set to happen next year. So why is AU not saying something, because it has a mandate, and part of the Peace and Security Council's work is deal with conflict prevention? Why are they not intervening before things go out of hand, Doctor?
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
You're welcome.
First of all, I want to agree with Professor Onyari that the elections of Uganda will set a battlefield for further confrontation. 2, I want to tell you that AU is dead. Ask me how it is dead. The AU talks of 2 things. When a coup takes place, then you come, the neighbor's house is on fire. Then you come and say, no, you have now destroyed that house, but I want you to build it quickly and go back. Time has come for African Union to change its position, its strict charter. Let's change it to a firefighting organization. Fire preventive fighting organization. It can't be a fire-consuming, accelerating organization. I'm telling you. Look at the coup in Mali. Look at the elections in Tanzania. After these elections, Tanzania will declare a state of emergency because the people who will collapse on the streets and the collapse will be very many. We don't know how many patients are there. We don't know. Miriam, the AU died. The last death was when Mugabe died. He went again with AU. There's no other leader who speaks nowadays. President Uhuru Kenyatta speaks, but he has been overtaken by events back at home. Therefore, we have a very big problem and a challenge. Another huge challenge that we have is we don't have troops to stop other troops from doing what they want to do. Morocco was suspended for 32 years. Did Morocco die? Morocco was suspended for 32 years. And it didn't die. It came back and said, I want to come back. And it was allowed to come back. So until we change the charter of AU, we have a problem in the House, Houston. Therefore, AU can never help democracy. The AU went to the DRC Congo and told the people not even to go under swearing in ceremony. Is that the AU that you are talking about? The AU that has been captured by France. The French have captured AU, they pay them money, they pay everything. The French are terrible people who have done terrible things to us, Jermaine. We are in a disaster. Therefore, for me, Miriam, all this Rome Convention, this, they don't work. They don't work. Those boys in Mali are going to be very sympathetic to us and say, okay, we are fed up after looting. We have looted enough. Can you come and take what you want? The ones in Sudan, you saw the coup in Sudan. What did it say? We have finished. We have done our good job in Sudan. You can now come and go. And the Sudanese military, was it sanctioned? It came back quickly. Are they not now in government? So what these soldiers are going to do is now to get a civilian prime minister, a diplomat who is well conversed with French speaking language. He comes to AU and convince AU that there is an administration mixed with soldiers. We are returning a Mali to democracy. And they will accept them. So we are on our own, Miriam. Thank you.
All right, so now the provisions on unconstitutional changes of government form the core of African Union's peace, security, and governance architecture there. And in addition, remarkable progress, they say, is being made in democratization throughout across Africa. You said, democracy is under trial here in Africa. So now, if unconstitutional changes, of governance, forms part of AU's, core peace, security, and governance, that is what they say is what they are all about. If the government is being changed in ways that are not constitutional, then AU has a problem with that. But also we know that the mandate, the core mandate of this Peace and Security Council is to prevent conflict and also to build peace as well as post-conflict reconstruction. And as we look at, the political dynamics here in the continent, bad elections usually are the cause of conflicts in this continent. So I don't know, why is it that AU will wait after and sanction, I'd say, like the sanctions right now in Mali. I think Mali has been removed from AU until I think they return back the civil rule. We saw that happen in Sudan. We see and that did not happen in Algeria. But there is concern when unconstitutional ways are used to remove the leadership in a country. But why is it when things are happening that are outside of what AU believes in terms of peace building and all that, human rights abuses and all that, and bad leadership and bad governance, why do they not sanction before? They wait when things are out of hand and then they come out and say, oh no, you're interfering with the government of this country, so we're going to sanction this country, we'll remove it from African Union, or we will give you their sort of a yellow card to warn you. But why is it that they don't come earlier, when things are slowly getting out of hands, when concerns have been raised by the citizens in a country? Why do they not come with these sanctions before, or they're just active after, something has gotten out of hand? Daniel?
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And on AU, I would like to start by saying, Miriam, those who have excelled in the field of medicine will tell you that it is often easier to treat a disease when it manifests itself in its earlier symptoms than when it gets full-blown. And it has been a very, very perennial mistake by the AU only to come out in the name of helping whenever a problem has spiraled out of control. That is when they come out as a body for African countries to be able to solve the stalemate. How I wish this body will be assisting in strengthening the member states' structures in terms of democracy, in terms of development, in terms of even fighting and combating pandemics like we do have today in COVID-19. That shows you that AU is a body which has outlived its usefulness. It is a body that has been on deathbed for quite some time, and it's no longer effective for the African people. It's unable to champion for peace in Africa. It's unable to convince leaders to uphold the tools of democracy in their respective countries. And therefore, what we need to do, Miriam, is to reconstitute the African Union. We need to rebrand it. We need to empower it so that it becomes a protector of African people's interests, not only here in Africa, but even these foreign powers that have always had the penchant of getting involved in matters in Africa, like France. If AU believed in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, it could be the body that of last resort that African states and the people will be running to in order to stop these external interference that has always plunged the continent into chaos. But look what is happening right now in Uganda. The opposition is campaigning with one hand tied on their backs. They can no longer compete equally with President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni because the government of the day, despite being believed in the principles of democracy that the elections are for the people, the government has taken upon itself to control the scene and be able to tilt the playing ground. So AU is watching this happening. It watched whatever went down in Mali in 2019 without abetting it. And you saw whatever happened last week. The government was overthrown in a coup, something that really destabilizes the security situation in the region. And right now in Uganda, in Tanzania, a lot is happening without even a red flag on whatever is going on there. And I think from my perspective and whatever Dr. Matsanga has said and Professor Jared Nyari have said, AU has failed and it should be looking on how to solve these conflicts. It should be putting out this fire before it becomes full-blown and the entire forest burns. Mm-hmm. So that is what they should be concentrating on. But as it is right now, AU is just a bunch of puppets by the Western powers, people who have been rigged into that particular organizations to cater for foreign interests rather than the African people's interests. Mm-hmm. So to me, it is ineffective. It is not going to help whatever is happening in Uganda. And God forbid, may things turn from bad to worst, then the Ugandan people will be on their own in that kind of situation. And Dr. Matsanga has also talked about the situation in Tanzania. If things fall from bad to worse also, it will be a Tanzanian case, so to say. Mm-hmm. But depending on AU is like expecting hitting a stone and expecting what a miracle cannot happen from the African Union.
All right, very well. And you would think because, conflict prevention is part and key of the Peace and Security Council there in the African Union. So they should have come out and pointed out some of these, things that have the potential of sparking, a conflict in a country. And with Tanzania, we've seen the opposition sometimes disappearing, others being arrested, others being trying to be eliminated, and in Uganda, we can't even keep talking about that. But these are situations, and across, of course, board here in Africa that you would expect AU to come in, as a means of conflict prevention, because these situations have the potential to put a country in a path of conflict, but they've failed to do that. So having said all of that, Professor, how can AU improve in its efforts to promote democracy and sustainable peace here in Africa?
Miriam, that's a good question, and I want to associate myself with what Dr. Matsanga said. In 1975, Martin Shikuku went to Parliament and he said that KANU is dead and the Jogo is dead, and the people thought Skuku was mad. Dr. Masanga has categorically said that the African Union is dead. What do you do to something which is dead? I thank God because I believe in resurrection. We can resurrect the African Union. But remember, Miriam, the law does not support, does not help or assist someone who is asleep. If you are asleep, the law cannot help you. The law assists someone who is awake. We have got Agenda 2063 on what we want to envisage Africa to be. We want good governance. When you see around the continent of Africa, do you see good governance? We want free democratic service institutions. Do you see them in the continent of Africa? Do you see respect for human rights, justice and rule of law in the continent of Africa? So I want to give this rider because I don't want to speak much because Dr. David Masanga said it very, very well, and I don't want to dilute what he said. Miriam, without good governance and an inclusive governance, Africa will not achieve its social, economic, and political targets on what they are sent. So for Africa Union to move forward, we must have good and an inclusive governance. Period. If this is what we have set out in peace and security, what we want to do, let us implement. The other day, Miriam, we were talking about John Michuki. He did not have another magic. He found the law, he implemented. So those ones in the continent of Africa, the rules, the policies, the charters are there. Let us move forward and implement this charter. But as the moment here is, you know, most of the African countries, Miriam, let me tell you, those who are Francophone-speaking countries, French-speaking countries, do you know their heads are in Paris? And those are the heads. They are the ones who are heading African Union. When will the decision be taken in Paris to come to Africa? Definitely, we can't make it unless we start redefining the dreams of Pan-African leaders, what they had in mind for having come with Organization for Africa Union and later reformed to be Africa Union. That's perhaps we go back and see where did the land start beating us, Miriam. So I said this now, Miriam, unless something is done, Africa Union is dead, and don't expect something good from something which is dead. It is just like a child trying to suck a dead mom. Of course, he cannot get milk, but the child will be sucking, and the mother died long time ago. And that is the situation Africa Union is.
All right. So we've been
and what we are trying to do now, you know, Miriam, the kind of discussion what we are doing is not in vain. Sometimes we frame this African leadership. They don't understand, but they are listening to us. And even if they are not listening to us, we are having a conversation. One day, perhaps they will wake up and find out that this is what they ought to do to take African forward. Thank you, Miriam.
All right, thank you. And also, Doctor, before you come in, because I want to pose this question to you before you respond. On Friday, we were having this conversation about the coups here in Africa and the nation, how they've been happening, and perhaps we also touched on AU's response. It's been very interesting because the way they responded when it comes to, say, the coup that happened there in, say, Zimbabwe, you know, after Mugabe was removed in a bloodless coup by the military there in the country, the AU at that time, still the chairperson, Musa Faki Muhammad, urged stakeholders to address the situation in accordance with Zimbabwe's constitution. Muhammad said the crisis must be resolved in a manner that promoted democracy and human rights and the socio-economic development of Zimbabwe. There was no direct call that Mugabe be maintained as head of state. So they did not even condemn that Mr. Mugabe was removed. But we saw in Mali they've been condemning and they've been asking for President Boubacar Keïta to be removed. In Sudan, we saw AU, responded but a bit late and even removing Sudan from AU and other situations. So they respond according to, I don't know, the interest or how the big brother is asking them to do. I'm not quite sure, but AU has been seen to be very selective, inconsistent, and in the manner in which it chooses to implement some of these aspects that are contained in AU's manifesto, Doctor. So looking at these examples, how do you make of this and the inconsistency and the selective manner in which AU chooses to address issues of democracy and all this, that are important to the African continent? How they choose to address some of these things? Does it worry you? Even as you respond to what Prof said there earlier.
Miriam, you asked a straightforward answer to your question is, why did they act that way in Zimbabwe and they did not act the way they acted in Zimbabwe in Mali? Mm-hmm. Mali is a French colony. Moussa Faki is a French puppet. He's a French intelligence officer on the continent of Africa. He works for the French. He doesn't work for African Union. That's why there is a difference between the English-speaking Africa, where English people are being killed in Cameroon, and the man does not make any noise. That's why in Zimbabwe, a change comes, the man did not make any noise. If you look at the letter that he wrote for the people of Mali, look at the letter he wrote to the people of Mali and the letter he wrote to the people of Zimbabwe. They are two different things. In Zimbabwe, it said stakeholders should sit down. In Mali, he said the soldiers should hand over power immediately. So is this organization still alive, surely? Isn't it in the grave? One leg is inside the grave. Going down, we want to put the second leg. They went and said, they sent observers. They sent election observers to DRC Congo. Election was Election was conducted in DRC Congo. Election was won by Tshisekedi. The African Union said it does not want Tshisekedi people to witness the swearing-in ceremony of Tshisekedi. So if you look at that, Miriam, as you speak now, this is not an organization that should be living on life. It is an organization on lifeline. The organization is on lifeline support unit. Life support unit. It has lost meaning. African leaders should sit and remove this guy. The earlier they remove the guy, the better. The earlier they remove the guy, the better for the African democracy. Less than that, there is no AU now. We are just left with a building in Addis Ababa where men harass women for sex, to give them jobs. You saw that report, Miriam, and then they came out and admitted. You saw it yourself. They admitted and said, yes, sexual harassment was taking place. Nobody has come out to say if sexual harassment took place, the best we can do is to make sure that these things don't happen to women in African Union. How can an organization practice sexual harassment at its headquarters, then come and teach Africans to observe sexual equality in their offices in African continent? How?
How?
How, surely? Miriam, how? You want to come and have a job at Punchline? I say, first of all, let's finish the problems this way, then have it. Then I go around the whole world and say, aha, I don't want you to do this and that. That is how AU is doing it, Mama. You see, when we talk about sexual harassment, people think it's only women who are harassed. Even the men who are being asked by fellow men. You know, these things nowadays happen. Women were harassing men, men were harassing women. If you find the chairman of a commission is a woman, you must do something before you get the job. And that's the organization we have, Miriam. Mm-hmm. Believe me or not, there's nothing much they can do now unless President Uhuru Kenyatta is listening to us, wakes up, is on the AU Peace and Security Council, weighs options, radically, they calls for a special summit that can make change AU. The AU of Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Sekuture, Obote, Nyerere is not there. This is an AU of a French coin. They give you some money, you do what they want you to do. That's why there's that contradiction in the letters that they wrote. Thank you.
All right, very well. So in the wake of the Arab Spring that was in 2011 that led to, you know, some leaders being ousted there, started with Tunisia, went to Egypt and Libya, and we've seen AU found itself in a conundrum because it was not able to address, you know, the change of governance there, as it were. So during a discussion during that time, the AU and its instruments in a statement acknowledged that unconstitutional changes of government were deeply rooted in governance deficiencies. It urged governments to uphold the rule of law and deepen democracy. So AU in its own findings said some of these things that are happening, the coups that happened and the unconstitutional ways of change of governance happened due to the governance deficiencies that we have here in the continent. So I would think now that the AU has identified perhaps a possible problem that, you know, plunges this continent into chaos in different, you know, countries. Has it done enough in its preventative, you know, ways to address this governance, you know, deficiency that it discovered by holding the leaders accountable? Remember, Russia was once part of EU. It was removed because it was not working in line with the set, you know, standards in the European Union in terms of human rights, you know, respect and good governance and things like that. Even as we speak right now, there's a leader, the opposition leader, who is being treated in Germany after a possible poisoning. So, you know, Russia seems to be working out of the norms and the set standards by the EU. So right now it's not in the EU. It was expunged. So can, you know, the African Union create, you know, some standards for how it is running and operating in the continent, as much as so that any leader who seems to be operating outside of these set standards of good governance and human rights respect and things like this that ultimately sets a country to, you know, to be more progressive. So should any country or any leader be found to be doing this, be removed, or any country that promotes that violates these standards? So can we have a sort of accountability so that AU does not just come out and issue these statements and say, oh, we've discovered there's a lack of governance here in the continent, and that is one of the reasons this continent is chaotic, and then just leaves us there, and it does not give us a solution on the other hand. Can they form a sort of an accountability for the leadership in this continent? If you fail to adhere to this, then there's a repercussion for your actions. Are they able to do that? Do they have the moral authority to do that? Professor.
Miriam, the simple question to ask ourselves: why was Organization for African Union and now African Union, Organization for African Units, OAU, and now reformed African Union, why was it formed? We must have those objectives and see those Pan-African leaders, the founding fathers of this continent, what they had in mind. That is perhaps we should start taking stock. They were very, very committed on what they wanted. They wanted to liberate Africa. What do the current African leaders want to do? In fact, Dr. Masanga will tell you, some of them, when they go to African Union, if I say that 99.9% of them sleep, I will not be speaking around. They will be confirming what I say. When they go there, they don't know why they are going there. They don't know their agenda. Even the technocrats who go there, they go for Badiam. So Miriam, what I need to tell you, my friend, the continent of Africa, if we are being controlled from France, from Paris, the leader for the African Union chairman, Faki, is a puppet of France. So the question I'm asking, who is going to sit down and ask serious conversations like that? We have set objectives, we have got goals. Who is implementing? How do you implement? How do they ask these African leaders to take stock? Do they give quarterly or periodic reports on what they are trying to do in their content? What Dr. Masanga is raising is very fundamental. And I want you to think, Miriam, if you can perpetuate sexual violence against any gender, what does that one mean? So the fish is rotten from the head. African Union is dead. Progressive voices like us and those one from other countries, we should come up and start reclaiming the African Union of our founding fathers, so that we can be able to promote constitutionalism. We can be able to be accountable. We can be able to practice democracy and rule of and respect of human rights. We can be able to practice good governance. This is what is badly needed in the continent of Africa at the moment. Minus that one, Miriam, if our leaders are not accountable. See what we said about Mali. See what we said about Mali. Nobody listen to us. You don't go to an election when there's a pandemic. Because you want to do shortcuts, and Miriam, shortcuts, sometimes they turn to be the wrongest route. You see the prime minister and the president of Mali going through a fence. Do you see that one? Can you have that kind of picture? What kind of history do you want to write if you can't want to do the things in a correct way? So let African leaders try to know that one day those offices are borrowed, and no matter how many years you take, you see the way they treated Robert Mugabe, the only man who could talk about the issues about the continent in Africa, in African Union, and the floor of United Nations. He talks on African agenda. Give me any current leader who is talking about. The one who can seem to be talking about African Union, African unity, is Uhuru Mugai Kenyatta. See what his buddies, his principal assistants are trying to do. They are trying to kill his regas and his admiration outside there. So Miriam, I'm trying to say that let us reflect, go back and say, where did they start beating us? Where did things start going wrong? But I want to thank Bunch Avra in Africa and Dr. Masanga that we are putting this agenda on the table. Some of the issues which we discuss here, people you may think that we are doing them joking, but they are being taken seriously. They are listening. We want to claim the glory of Africa. Let us promote constitutionalism in Africa. Let us try to be accountable. Let us practice democracy. Let us practice good governance. Is when we can be able to take Africa forward, Miriam.
All right, so where did things fall apart in this continent? Daniel, as we conclude, AU itself, acknowledged that these unconstitutional changes in government, the coups that have marred Africa in the recent past, usually are rooted a lot of times in governance deficiencies. They're saying some of these leaders, as much as we are here advocating for them not to be removed, but when you look at their track record in regards to governance, it has not been very good. And so perhaps the people got tired and decided, we need you to get out. And after long days and months and weeks of protests, as we've seen in the case of Mali, Sudan, Algeria, Zimbabwe, and so on and so forth, military decides, let's make it easier for you. We're going to stand here and you're going to tell the people of this country that you have resigned. So they're saying as much as that is very unconstitutional, but it is due to governance deficiencies. As we conclude, Daniel, has AU done enough now to address this matter in the continent, governance deficiencies?
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And it's good that the AU knows quite well that the problem in African leadership is governance inefficiency. And of course, Miriam, you won't be scared if a caged dog or a chained dog came backing at you in the hood. And that is what is happening in the AU. It cannot even instill fear in these countries that have leadership inadequacies and which are unable to uphold the principles of democracy, because the AU itself is a beggar. The AU is incapacitated. The AU does not have even the moral standing when it comes to commanding leadership in Africa. So a body like that cannot be able to fully make the country, the member state, to toe the line in terms of following the policies that it has enacted. And that is where the European Union does better than us. If the European Union had to impose sanctions on any of its member countries, then be quite rest assured that this country is going to face a lot of turbulence in terms of both social, economic, and political struggles. So, but that is not the case with the AU. Dr. Matsanga mentioned there when Morocco was expunged for 30 years. What did Morocco lose being outside AU? Absolutely nothing. Sudan right now has been removed from the African Union. What is Sudan missing? Absolutely nothing, because the AU has nothing to offer. And that is what we are having here, a body that is a toothless dog that has nothing to offer to the African people, a body that cannot even enforce the lowest of its statuses. So, to me, I think the African Union needs to be rebranded. As Professor Jared Onyari said, we have to resurrect it. We have to bring in a new firebrand of leaders who are able to work on its structures, to strengthen it, to make it a more principled body. From an African perspective, the AU was supposed to be the body that could negotiate even for Africans before other international partners, to be able to put the African position equal to the other international players. But as it is right now, the AU is the lapdog to France and other Western powers. So it does not have even the capacity to defend the continent on the international table. So that is what we are having, a very, very former shell of its former glory is what you are having now as the AU. It does not. It is no longer following those dreams, those ambitions that Professor talked about, that the founders and our forefathers had for this continent. Mm-hmm. So that is what I think. And the best way forward is to reform the AU, to give it more strength, to remove the corruption and the impunity from the organization, and set a new integrity path for it to be able to have a voice in Africa. Otherwise, we shall be taking it, circumventing upon this issue now and forever.
All right, very well. And just a point of correction there, Sudan was actually reinstated back to the African Union after it was able to form that, what is it called, that government, the transitional government between the civilian side, which is led by the protester side, and the army thereafter. Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok gained the brains of leadership in that country. So Sudan was reinstated. But even before that, I think there's a deadline that had been given by AU that if you don't form this government by this time, then we will forever expand you. And Sudan was not able to meet that deadline, and AU said nothing. So when Sudan was ready to say now they're back to civilian rule, or as it is right now, to form that transitional government, so AU was like, okay, now you can come back. So even the deadline that it had given, it seemed quite, it was not as effective even to Sudan there itself. But Sudan is now part of AU. So, Doctor, as we end there, a very important point Daniel has brought up. AU has a big begging bowl, and that has worked as a disadvantage for AU to have a right standing in the world map, and that's why they really can't speak about us on our behalf with a lot of confidence, because at the end of the day, they have to beg for malaria drugs, they have to beg for HIV drugs for the continent, they have to keep begging. So that has worked disadvantage of AU.
Yes, Miriam, I have lost the way. I don't know whether you are hearing me.
Yes.
Yes.
But I've lost even in the way I can't see all of you. I don't know what I can do on the screen to see you.
No, it's okay. We are concluding. So you're giving us, you're concluding for us, actually. So it's okay.
I also wanted to see you before all of you, but I am speaking from very terrible situation here.
Yes, just conclude. You can fix the situation.
Where Songa raised a very important point. Mm-hmm. We are beggars. Mm-hmm. Above all, we are defaulters. We don't pay the money. South Sudan has been stealing money from oil, but they can't pay membership fee. You saw that? All this process we have been doing for Bure, Werere. We like Werere things. So Songa has a point there. 2, we are not economically viable. We don't stand on our own. We don't even have policy. When we say we leave ICC, some countries go back and say, no, ICC is a very good wife. So we needed to marry even an extra wife from ICC. Have you ever seen any issue that Africa can go together and then they remain there for a long time? No. Look at all these issues that are causing chaos in South Africa. Now South Africa, ANC wants to quit ICC. But I told them several years ago, about 7 years ago, to leave ICC. Surely our behaviors have also let us down, Miriam. Our conduct of affairs, public affairs in African minds has let us down. We have lost confidence because of the new man who has been in power for 4 years. He came to kill us completely. During Dlamini Zuma's tenure of office, we were still breathing. But this one, we have been suffocated. A man has put a knee on our choke blocks. Our throats were gone. We might never even resurrect. Actually, my statement still stands. And let President Uhuru Kenyatta hear me. AU is dead. Is dead. They only come to make statements. They only come to make statements when a government has been overthrown. And I condemn the younger man of 25 years. This guy doesn't even listen to anything. He still uses dole. You know dole? Children, when they are growing, we used to be bought dole. Is it called dole? A doll. That thing to play with. That soldier in Mali looks very childish. He might not leave power. He wants to sell some diamonds, some gold, and the French are buying it now in huge numbers. That is the tragedy of Africa. And that is how we have suffered. And I thank you very much, Miriam. I will continue with this topic tomorrow or another day or tonight from my point where I will be. But for now, you have done very well for me. And unfortunately, I can't see your faces. I don't know why. I'm talking from the darkness.
You're talking from the fence. You're talking from the fence.
It's all right.
We can hear you.
Yeah, you are hearing me now. I can see Professor, but my screen just changed into something. It's very amorphous.
Okay. Technology.
So I can't hear anybody. I can only hear Miriam talking, but I can't hear anything else.
All right, Doc. Thank you so much, Doctor, there joining us.
So thank you very much. I want to thank you very much. We see each other tomorrow. I will call in or I will stabilize my internet where I am. Then we shall be able to see each other face to face. But thank you very much, Miriam. You look great, very, very great. And thank you, Professor. Thank you, Sean, Mr. Sean C. Wesonga Colombo. I know Miriam doesn't want me to pronounce that word. See, it's Sean, Mr. Sean. Thank you very much. Thank you. Greet all of you in the studios in Nairobi. I want to thank all of you, the production team, the editorial team, the radio Punchline African radio that is giving music wherever we are now, miles and miles away from Nairobi, from Kenya. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless everybody. Until tomorrow morning. Thank you, Miriam. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much there. And thank you, Prof, and also Daniel. We'll see you here tomorrow. Also, thank you, our viewers, at, I think, 9 a.m. East African time for another edition of the latest news in Kenya and also in Africa and the world. Indeed, my name is Miriam Gutu. A very good afternoon to you.